This is the volcanic island of the Tongan archipelago in the southern Pacific Ocean. This is where Hunga Tonga, Hunga Ha'apai, a submarine volcano, is situated. On the 14th of January, the volcano started erupting. Tsunami warnings were issued. Waves of 30 centimeters were observed in Tonga's capital, Nuku'alofa. But the main eruption happened the very next day, on the 15th of January. It's the largest volcanic eruption in the 21st century, and the largest recorded since the 1991 eruption of Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines' Luzon volcanic arc, in which at least 800 people were killed and more than 10,000 were displaced. Both volcanoes lie in the Pacific Ring of Fire. There are about 1,500 potentially active volcanoes worldwide. Around 75% of those are located along the Pacific Ring of Fire, a region that spans the perimeters of landmasses on the Pacific Ocean. A horseshoe-shaped belt about 40,000 kilometers long and up to 500 kilometers wide. As a direct result of plate tectonics under and around the Pacific Ocean, frequent volcanic eruptions and earthquakes are common in the region. The Tonga volcanic explosion created unimaginable environmental destruction. US space agency NASA stated that the eruption was hundreds of times more powerful than the Hiroshima atomic bomb, referring to one of the 2 atomic bombs dropped by the United States on Japan during World War II. The eruption triggered tsunamis across various countries. Fiji, American Samoa,
and we are now under tsunami warning for American Samoa.
New Zealand.
I was on the boat and I heard all the tide coming in and going out, big surges, and then I heard crashing and saw a catamaran.
Japan. United States.
nicely. Jesus.
Chile,
Ya está corriendo la gente, mira el auto allá.
La gente se está volviendo, está haciendo...
Peru, Tonga was officially cut off from the world. No communication could be established to the island for many days. An undersea cable was damaged. There was a complete outage of phone and internet services. Apart from being devastated, Tonga was also fully isolated. On the morning of the 17th of January, Australia started sending surveillance aircraft to Tonga to assess the extent of the damage and start supplying humanitarian aid. New Zealand and Fiji soon joined Australia in the relief efforts too. New Zealand's Navy delivered fresh drinking water for the people of Tonga. The HMNZS Aotearoa delivered 250,000 liters of bulk water supplies. The ship's desalination plant also drew seawater from the harbor. Through the osmosis process, seawater was turned into fresh water, which was then tested and transferred into waiting water tankers. Both the bulk and the desalinated water were immediately transported throughout the mainland to those experiencing a critical water shortage. Other countries that started providing assistance to the tsunami-affected country were India, China, Singapore, Israel, Japan, and the United States. In fact, India provided emergency relief assistance of $200,000 for rehabilitation and reconstruction operations. Several relief funds were initiated across the globe to save the island. Remember the Tongan Olympian flag bearer, Peter Taufatufoa?
Tonga!
Who shot to fame during the 2016 Summer Olympics for going shirtless during the opening ceremony. Taufatufoa gathered more than $330,000 in aid to his native country. At least 3 people, including 2 locals, have been confirmed dead because of the tsunami. One of the first deaths that was reported was of a tattoo parlor owner, Angela Glover, a British resident who lived in Tonga. Glover, who ran a dog charity in the southern Pacific Ocean, had been missing after she was washed away from the beach in Nuku'alofa when she and her husband had gone to get their dogs. The aftermath is truly horrific. Tonga is covered in a blanket of volcanic ash.
It just came into mind that it's not going to stop. And also looking out at the ocean, we've seen the volcano, the ash, the cloud. It was just like all white, but we've never seen how big it was until that day. Really, nobody knew that there was a wave coming. So in every household that was on the road, like we just shouted out, "Tsunami, tsunami!" Get to higher ground.
Five days after the disaster, communication to the island was re-established. This is Adi Pasikala. Based in New Zealand, Pasikala broke down in tears while recounting her phone call with relatives in disaster-hit Tonga.
I felt sorry for my mom. She got sickness, and I felt sorry for my nieces and nephew because I received a video from them trying to evacuate them from our house in western side, moving to a higher ground. When the tsunami hit, the eruption, I can't sleep on that day, on that night, on Saturday night until Sunday, and then I got my mom, and I didn't have the tears of joy, but it feels inside my heart. I'm so happy because I hear her voice again. And we talk. The first question that I ask, how are you? Are you guys okay? What are your needs?
Like Pasikala, other Tongans around the globe were also desperately trying to contact their loved ones.
Cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. Or dial.
Yeah, just Nereo. No answer?
So my aunt, this is what she was doing the day, I think the day that everything happened. She's cooking, and our house is literally right by the waters. So this is our house, and this is the water back here. She didn't have any time to prepare to leave.
But as Tonga tries to go back to normalcy, there is another threat looming over the isolated Pacific nation. The remote Pacific Kingdom was one of the few places in the world still free of COVID, with just 1 case of infection reported last October. The Pacific archipelago avoided COVID outbreaks by closing its borders to the outside world in early 2020. But the influx of international ships and planes arriving to deliver badly needed water and food has made it more vulnerable to a COVID-19 outbreak. Although all relief materials are being delivered under no-contact protocols. This means all pallets unloaded from aircraft or ships are isolated for 72 hours before being distributed by local emergency services. But on the 25th of January, a coronavirus-hit Australian warship, HMAS Adelaide, was forced to dock in the country. – 23 coronavirus cases were detected on the vessel. These crew members had tested negative before departing Brisbane. Investigations on how they got infected are underway. The ship had offloaded 250 pallets of aid to a quarantine zone. February 2nd, 2022, lockdown declared in Tonga. Apart from these cases, 2 wharf workers also tested positive, prompting the previously virus-free nation to go into lockdown on the 2nd of February. Did Australia's largest warship inadvertently also bring COVID to Tonga? Samples from the 2 infected wharf workers are being sent to Australia for testing to verify the origin of the COVID strain. 3 more cases have been detected in a family, bringing total case numbers to 5. Can Tonga avoid this additional crisis? The undersea volcano erupted with such colossal force that an atmospheric shockwave was detected around the world. 11,000 kilometers away from the island in Peru, the effects of the tsunami triggered by the eruption are devastating. Flocks of seabirds swimming in oil-laden waters. Dead birds and fish floating in the sea. When waves from the tsunami struck the Peruvian coast, a ship was loading oil into a refinery. The wave action rocked the boat and caused a deadly oil spill. The South American nation has declared a 90-day environmental emergency.
Today we found a bird that was floating in the sea. We were able to get it on the boat, but after a few minutes it died. This is something that happens because the birds are already intoxicated and are only floating in the sea, but they no longer have the strength to swim, to hunt or to fly.
The hatchlings are already dead. The hatchlings mostly eat on the seashore, and the seashore is full of oil. The birds are dead, as you have seen.
The tanker spilled about 6,000 barrels of oil just off Peru's coast, about 30 kilometers north of the capital, Lima, contaminating vast swaths of sea and beaches. While fingers are being pointed at the refinery's operator, Spanish oil giant Repsol, the company claims Peruvian authorities did not provide a tsunami warning. Meanwhile, cleanup crews are continuing their efforts to remove oil washing up on the beach. The tsunami also caused 2 drownings in Peru after unusually high waves were recorded. The cascading effects of the volcanic eruption forced the world to sit up and pay attention. It is a reminder of what goes wrong if timely action is not taken. It is a reminder of how important early warning volcano and tsunami systems are for small island nations. While the worst is over, Tonga's massive underwater volcanic eruption will deliver long-lasting damage. It could erode coastlines and disrupt fisheries, a major sector of employment for Tongans. The volcano is now releasing sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide, two gases that create acid rain when they interact with water and oxygen in the atmosphere. After facing the twin disasters of a colossal volcanic eruption and tsunami waves, the people of Tonga could be besieged by acid rain that can destroy crops. There are about 1 million undersea volcanoes around the globe at a variety of depths. Most of them are considered to be extinct. Compared to land volcanoes, they are harder to study for obvious reasons. This makes them unpredictable. But an eruption of this kind is considered to be a once-in-a-millennium event. NASA scientists say that it is helping them to understand how certain features formed on the surfaces of Mars and Venus. But for the people of Tonga, it's probably little consolation. Their future remains uncertain.